Top 10 hottest comics of the week based off of cover prices. Data, that is right. Data. We're talking real data, sales data, not speculative stuff like, oh, I think this book is hot. I think we're talking about this book. This MCU made this. No! Real data. Cover Price does not sponsor us, but we use that cover price as a tool to determine what the hottest books are of the week. They release lists every Monday. Our show is live on Friday. So we dig into that top 10 list real quick. But Chris dives in to the nitty gritty and he picks his 3 most interesting books of the week for many reasons. They can be interesting for bad reasons, but they're mostly interesting for good reasons. And this week, it's a fun week, Chris. Am I right? It's a fun week. We're just going to get right into it. Dan, how do you feel about it? Just get right into it?
I always love everything you guys do here.
Oh, stop it. You don't have to be nice to us. You're already on the show. It's like your 80th appearance. Stop it. All right, here we go. Top 10 hottest comics of the week, guys. My computer's so slow. It's just like molasses. Here we go. At number 10, we have Defenders number 1. Shout out to Dan De La Torre. Defenders number 1, the Momoko Silver Surfer Black 1 in 50. Dan, do you have this issue?
I do. Well, I don't have. There were 2 of those. One is that the color cover you have that has more color detail. I have the one that's a little more with less color. Let's just put it that way.
Got it. So you do not have the 1 in 50. We did not hold it against you. At number 9, we have Invincible Iron Man. Number 9, full first appearance of RiRi. This is the second print. And number 8, we have Invincible Iron Man number 9, cover A. Number 7, Eternals number 1. Guys, start seeing this pop up more and more in everywhere, actually. At number 6, we have Miles Morales, Spider-Man Annual number 1, the Tony Fleece 1 in 25. That is a cool, old school looking magazine right there, pulp book. At number 5, we have Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars number 1. Number 4, we have Ironheart number 9. And at number 3, we have Invincible Iron Man number 1. That may look familiar because that was one of my fresh gets of the week. At number 2, we have Passive Aggressive, the aggressive version. I'm surprised at the aggressive version. I thought the passive one was more rare. And at number 1, Batman Urban Legends number 6. 2 weeks in a row, right, Chris?
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row. All right, so that's the top 10 list. Chris, this is your time. Did you guys hear my voice crack, by the way? Chris! You're going to say by the bell. Chris,
it's your high school voice.
Dude, you guys would not recognize me from high school. I'm telling you right now. Maybe one day I'll show you. Chris, you're going to dive into the top 3 most interesting books of the week. What do you got?
How about, again, I like to do this before I get into my 3 picks. How about some RiRi Williams, man? She killed this list. Jeff, can we bring up the top 10 real quick again?
Absolutely.
Look at this. Look at this. How many RiRi books? 1.
We said this last week, Chris. I mean, it's like basically saying screen. Like it wasn't a hard prediction to make, but we did say RiRi would dominate next week.
Absolutely. 4 slots out of 10, man. And Marvel taking 8 out of 10. So, yeah. So big shout out to RiRi. And speaking of RiRi, I had to pick one of her books, right? Which one did I pick? Invincible Iron Man, number 9. First print, second print's there too. I think it's good to correlate both of them and to just show how both of them are moving. That's how popular this character is. And, we got the first images of her on set, Black Panther 2, The Wakanda Forever. And it's just blowing these books out of the water. This book had a 126% increase in sales over the last week. Now get this, because this is what I do. When Cover Price reports on these books, we then bring it to you guys a few days later. So what I do is I go and I take real-time data on top of their trending data from the last week, and I add to this, okay? When they reported on this book, there was a high CGC 9.8 raw for just over $700. That was earlier this week. As of last night, $1,000 best offer accepted. So it was probably under the $1,000 mark, but I could assume that it probably wasn't under $900. You got to, if you understand how eBay works with best offers. So this book, just again, over the last week, has gotten hotter and hotter. A high raw sold for $301. Man, I bought the so here's my story. I actually own this book, and I was gonna send it out to CGC this year, and I didn't. I was hoping to get a 9.8, but I did a boo-boo. I did a boo-boo. I pressed the book, forgetting that it had the Marvel Digital Redemption sticker.
Oh no.
Yep. And it left the indentation of that square. If you guys know that square, that like 1 inch by 1 inch square sticker that's on one of the middle pages. I forgot to put my heavyweight paper in between that page, and it indented this square. What do you call it when it's pressed into the every other indentation on half of the pages of the book?
Ooh.
Party foul right now. Don't get me wrong. I do believe that now I have to go back and press it a few times to try to fix that. I don't know if I'll ever get it back to 9.8, but the point of my story is this. I bought that book for like $8 a few years back. So if you guys, I was really hoping to send it in, but I party fouled. I mean, it's still, even with that indentation, it's still a super high grade. But this book is the one thing that I regret not sending it in is now, when I was sending it in, you know, there's the tiers for CGC, right? It was if I was hoping it would come back at 9.8. If it came back at 9.8, it was right at that $400 mark. So you know how you got to declare the value? I probably would have put it at $399, hoping to get that 9.8. Because if it goes, the modern book goes to 400 and up in value, it goes into that next tier and it costs more money. So now, if I was hoping to get a 9.8 on it, it's going to cost me more money to send it in, folks. So, guys, if you own this book in high grade and you're thinking about sending it in, because there's that, what's the next level? I think it's 800 or 1,000 to where it's in that next tier. So if you think you got a 9.8, you might want to send it in now.
You might,
sooner than later.
Yeah, it's not going down anytime soon.
Let me share with you a quick story, Chris. I got this about a year ago, and I was putting it in Mylar, and I had the 4 mil Mylar, and as I'm putting it in, I either caused or aggravated a little tear, and I felt horrible for about a month because it was just a stupid, careless thing to do because I should have been more cautious, but these things do happen.
Yep. Hey, I will say to that, Dan, thank you for bringing that up, and I'll just, since we're on the topic here, be careful with Mylar. I haven't done it with a lot of high-priced books, but if you're sliding a book into a Mylar bag, this isn't a Mylar bag, obviously, it's just a poly bag, but especially 4 mil, but even if it's a 2 mil, Mylar is stiff, so the flap stays up, right? So if you're sliding a book in, now I'm going to take this tape off, because I don't want to get tape on my second appearance of Jon Stewart.
Tape is evil.
Yeah. If you're sliding it in, right, and especially if it's a book that is older and it may have a little bit of something that can grab, what I do is I make sure I pull the flap back with my fingers and slide it in like this, because if you let the flap sit like this, and Dan, is that kind of what happened? Were you pushing it in and the flap kind of got caught?
And it was 4 mil, and again, I simply wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. So yeah, tip guys, be careful. Be careful putting your books in the Mylars because of that flap. It can definitely get caught on the book. So good tip for everyone.
It does happen to everybody though. So we all have stories. All right, moving on. Your second most interesting pick from this.
All right. Hey, look, this is cool. We got a collector's tip during our top 10. So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. My number 2, oh my gosh. Eternals number 1. Sorry, folks, I had to pick it. This book, okay. This book, ever since the announcement of this film, has just been going up and up. It had, little periods, with the movie being delayed and everything. It had kind of stagnant periods and whatnot. But this book has just been a monster of a book. This book was a very, very affordable Bronze Age #1, a first appearance book before the announcement. It really was, and it's taken off, and it's still gone. We gotten multiple trailers now. We're getting closer to the release. Fingers crossed that it doesn't get delayed. 135% increase in sales this week. And here's the thing. Okay, high CGC 9.8, $3,800 best offer accepted. Now the nearest one closer to that, because I don't know exactly what the best offer was, $3,400, a $3,400 sale. So $3,800 best offer accepted. The next highest was a $3,400. I think it was like the day before. This book is just going. High Raw sold for $850. I know for a fact, because I have a 9.4, that book over the last, I want to say 8 months, maybe since the beginning of the year, has more than doubled in value in the 9.4. So, and I don't have the numbers for 9.8, but I'm going to assume it's going to be a similar trend, if not even more, because we know the demand of 9.8s right now. But for a high raw to sell for $850, that's huge. But man, $3,400 flat out sale, $3,800 best offer for that CGC 9.8. I'm sorry. There's a lot of naysayers out there still. They're saying, "Oh, this movie's gonna." I'm thinking this movie is gonna be something, man. I really am.
I agree.
Yeah, dude, it is the most beautiful. Like from the small portion of footage that we saw in that trailer, everything just looks graceful and gorgeous and beautiful and just flows. And there's something different about this film than other MCU films. And I'm excited. I'm excited for it too. And I'll be honest, I think $3,800 is it's almost like, I feel like it's a bargain. You know what I mean? If you could drop $4,000 on a book, hoping that it goes up, you have about a couple months to do it. You know what I mean?
With the Eternals, though, it looks like a launching pad, a platform for the MCU going cosmic. It can go in several different directions, and I agree with both of you. This is going to be a dynamite movie.
I mean, the Celestials alone are going to bring. They open up. It just ties a whole. It even ties that cosmic part of the universe of the MCU even tighter together. So I'm super excited. And again, I'm not encouraging you guys to drop $4,000 on a book expecting to double your money. That's just my opinion right there. I'm not pushing this. Chris and I and Dan, we never pump and dump or anything. Chris doesn't have 8 copies he's ready to just flip right now. But again, just a thought. Again, this is a Kirby, this is Kirby's baby basically. Yeah. And to see it on screen, it's exciting.
I always say this too, especially right now with the 9.8 market. Go for those high raws, and I know a Bronze Age book like this, it's gonna be tough to find. Probably a near mint copy raw, but you never know. I mean, this high raw that sold for $850, I don't know. I wish I would have pulled that up. I don't know if it was a 9.8 candidate. I do remember it saying, I think they had it listed on eBay as near mint, but that's eBay. Take it with a grain of salt. But hey, I honestly at this point, I'm just saying, for example, if you could get a 9.6 for under $2,000 right now, right? And again, even if you're buying graded books, this goes back to my live show, what I talked about earlier too. Do you trust grading companies? When you're buying a 9.6, and you know the slogan, don't just buy the grade, buy the book. Look at the book. If you get a 9.6, whether it's in your hand from a store or at a con, or you're looking at pictures online, ask for more pictures, ask for tons of more pictures. If you're looking at this book front and back and you think you have a good confidence, you think that this book could be pressed up to a 9.8 and you could get a 9.6 say for $1,800, buy a 9.6, crack it, pay $50 to go get it cleaned and pressed and send it into CGC not once, not twice, not even 5 times, maybe even 6 or 7 times, because that money that you're spending is still going to be less than what a 9.8 is going for. And I'm telling you, you do. I can't give you the actual figurative percentage, because I'm not running an algorithm here, but I guarantee you have a high percentage of that book. If you send that book 5 to 10 times to CGC after a press and clean, if you did your due diligence to make sure that 9.6 doesn't have a color breaking tick, but maybe just a couple of pressable defects, you have a high percentage of that book coming back at 9.8, and you saved yourself a ton of money.
That's a great strategy. The only thing going against you is the time it takes to do that these days. So.
Very true.
Anyways, moving on. Your third and last most interesting book from this list. What do you got, Chris?
Well, everyone, I wanted to pick Batman Urban Knights number 6 again so I can lose, 40, 50 more subscribers, but I'm not gonna, I'm not even gonna go there this week. Not just because I wanted to stay away from the controversy, because you guys know me. I'm all for diving into controversy. I don't care. I went with the book that I think deserves to be a number 1 pick, and that's Secret Wars number 1. This book, I have been talking about this book for a very, very long time. I've been saying for 2 years now that, ever since Endgame came out, Secret Wars mixed between the 84 version and the 2015 version. I've talked about the role that Doctor Doom and the Beyonder have played in both of those stories, the 84 and the 2015, all right? And I talked about how bringing these two together can be something that can really work in live action. So when you take those things into account, and you take into account that Jim Shooter was filmed talking about Marvel getting in touch with him, wanting him to sign the papers and sell him the rights to his story, because according to his words, that's what they do when they want to take your story and make it into a movie. So I'll just leave it at that. He was dropping some bombs, and it's very, very intriguing what he said. If you haven't checked out that video, that interview, go check it out. And he knows, as an editor as well, he knows these things, and he was privy to that in the interview talking about this. So that right there has just sparked this book to increase. It had 154% increase in sales over the last week. But these numbers, man, and again, this is another one that when Cover Price reported on the high CGC 9.8 earlier this week, I think this one was like 700 and something too. High CGC 9.8 sold for $999. $999. That was a newsstand, but keep in mind, this book is from 1984. There was still more newsstands than there were direct, although newsstands did get ripped up and sent back, so we don't have an accurate number of each book and how many newsstands there might be out there. But I do want you to take that with a grain of salt that it was a newsstand rather than a direct. Now here's the thing: I bought a high grade that was probably anywhere from like a very fine near mint, maybe anywhere from an 8.5 to a 9.2. I don't think I pressed it up, but I probably could give it a press. I paid $20 for it. A high raw this week sold for $120, best offer accepted. So I would still assume, it's still above the $100 mark. But there was a $104 winning auction as well. So this book in a high grade, and again, this is raw, so the grade is going to be subjective. It could be anywhere. When you talk about high grade, it could be anywhere from probably a 9.0 to a 9.8 possibilities. This book is now crossed over the $100 mark in the high raw category. And this is just with loose speculation and fans saying they can definitely do this. And now with a conversation with Jim Shooter saying there's something going on to where I think they're trying to get the rights to this story so they can make a movie out of it. That's big, but it's no confirmation. It's no announcement. Again, this is just another one of those things. Now, keep in mind, too, this is the first appearance of the Beyonder in, non-physical form. but in the start of the storyline. So it's not just that it's a number one of the miniseries, of the story arc. It's the Beyonder's first technical appearance. That means something. So watch out for this book. If you are willing to take the risk and the investment, it might be a good time to start looking at this. If you're interested, it was a good time a year or two ago when I was talking about it. But the thing that can happen right now is this. Jim Shooter could say what he said, and then we could get no announcement for the next year. And it may stagnate, and maybe the price doesn't rise. Maybe it cools off a little bit. But I don't think it's going to, when you get these things that happen, I always talk about new floors. Now, the floor that it was 2 weeks ago is never going to be that floor again. Even if this book cools off because we don't get an announcement over the next year or so, or nothing else happens, okay, it might cool off. Natural ebb and flow of a market, it's never going back down to the flow because this mind state is out there now. So these next few months could be a very good time to think about this. And look at what Dan was just saying about the Eternals film opening up to even more cosmic stuff going on. And what is more cosmic than Secret Wars? So I don't know, guys. Hopefully there's some deals still out there. Again, this is another one. I would absolutely stay away from spending $800, $900, $1,000 on a 9.8. This is a 80s book, technically the beginning of the Copper Age. So look, there's high grades out there. I would definitely recommend seeking out a raw high grade, trying to get it pressed and clean and submitting it to hopefully get a 9.8.
In all the decades that I was collecting, that is the only series where I was literally on the edge of my seat waiting for the next issue. It was a 12-issue miniseries. It was absolutely brilliant. It was ridiculed because people didn't like Shooter at the time. That was inside baseball, inside politics at Marvel. But it was a fabulous series. I met Shooter about 4 years ago. He's very smart. He's got great business sense, but he's also very stoic. And he also doesn't pull any punches. If he said he's going to, whatever he's going to say, he's going to come out and say it. He doesn't mince any words. I hope he does get cashed out for this because he deserves it after what he went through at Marvel. But this is a fantastic series. But I'm with Chris. Don't pay high price for this. You can find this raw. It's worth getting even a mid-grade just to get the storyline for this. Your hardest one is going to be issue 8 for obvious reasons. That's the new Spider-Man suit.
Yep, absolutely. And you can still find these in bins too. They're still out there. So I take your time. So yeah, but right there ends the top 10 hottest comics of the week based off cover prices data. We'll have a new and interesting list next week where Chris picks the 3 most interesting books from that list. And
any guesses? Any guesses for what's going to hit the top 10 next week?
Well, let me add before you finish off this top 10. So you asked me a question when I was on your show a while ago, Chris, about new comics. I'm now reading new comics, and one of the ones I got was Defenders 1. And I was looking for a couple things. One, how the new writers are connecting to bronze, silver, and copper. Yep. Defenders 1 is one of those ones where they're doing that. Another one is Symbiote Spider-Man, but that's another story. Yep. Get your hands on this Defenders 1. I won't ruin it, but it has Galactus tied into it. And especially get Defenders 2, which I believe comes out this week. I won't ruin it for you if you've not read it, but I think this could be an extremely big key leading into something very cosmic. And it's right on the shelf now. Get your hands on it. Don't pass it up.
Yep. I have the Momoko variant. That was, number 10 on the list this week. So
next week we're going to see a lot of Spider-Man books, guys. No doubt. Yep.